you don't restore a car because you're going to beat the price, right? Between the two cars, the one for $1,000 and the one for 17,500, buy the one for 17,500 because it's cheaper. You can buy the one for 1,000 and fix it up. If that's one at 17,500 is a relatively unmolested MG, you'll never get your $1,000 car to look quite as original, quite as nice as that unmolested car. So you don't do it because of the money. That's absolutely not. You do it because you love it. You do it because you want to put your hands into something. You got a garage, you got some tools, you got this fantasy about restoring a car. It's like, hey, okay, go for it. But before you get going, there are so many things I will encourage you to do. First of all, read about your car. Get the factory workshop manual, read it. Read it out loud to yourself if you have to, so that when you hit words like, oh, I don't know, obviate in the MGA workshop manual, and you might not know what that word means, if you're just reading it silently, your eyes will just skip over it. But if you are reading it out loud, you'll stop and go, what does that mean? So it slows you down. You hear it and you read it. It's a really good way of doing it. The next thing is the factory parts manual. There's no substitute for a parts manual. The best parts manuals ever were from about 19, well, right when BMC started, about 1955 up through about 1965. And then they got there's so many options. You had to worry about the French market, the Swedish market, the Japanese market. And instead of having these nice drawings where every single part is identified and put together in a manner that you can understand it, instead everything's hanging in white space. The bonnet release cable, it may not show you all the little clips it goes through going down to the bonnet shut platform and the MGB. But for an MGB, since the body doesn't change much between 1962 and 1980, the early parts manual, AKD 3227, is just a great resource. You can take a look at that. It shows you how the grill comes apart and how the grill goes back together just by looking at the pictures, which way the bolts go in. Was it a spring lock washer? And then if you get the decoder that goes with it, you can change an LMK 0504 into a 5/16 bolt that's a quarter of an inch long. So it's got a lot of detail in it. It is so helpful. So are some of the what I would call coffee table books. How they made the MGA, and you look at that, and here the cars are going across the trim deck, and here they are going getting the chassis and the engines, and it's all helpful. It all makes more sense if you see it the way that they assemble the cars at the factory, because the closer you can duplicate that in your own garage, the easier it is. And time is a great factor here. So read. Knowledge is power. Just read, read, read. Get as much stuff as you possibly can.
And
Then,
what was that catalog number again that you
yeah,
said?
AKD, Alpha Kilo Mama, AKD, or excuse me, AKD Delta, AKD 3227. And that's the MG. It's like printed on legal paper. Beautiful drawings, same kind of drawings you see in the Moss catalog, but they're much larger. And it's so helpful. It's just every single nut and bolt is defined. MGAs also have these, the Farina magnets, the Z-type magnets. The TFs did not. And by the time we get up to about 1967, we're starting to get more generic ones. They're helpful. Parts manuals always helpful. Get that. But if you got a B, no matter what year it is, get the AKD 3227 because it'll help you understand how everything goes together a lot. Doesn't have well, it's probably got push handles on the doors, but it wouldn't have the more modern regulators. It certainly doesn't have charcoal canisters and smog pumps and stuff like that in it because it only goes up through just about the end of the three main B. Anyway, read. It's so important. Then,
Excuse me, John, I have
yes,
a question for
yes,
you.
There's a very good companion manual of the same era for the body. So that the one you're speaking of the mechanical parts, there's also the companion manual for the body panels.
yes. They started to break it into three sections: the body, the mechanicals, and the powertrain. So that was a little bit later. That was around 1967, 68 when they did that. I'm going back a little bit earlier, but yes, they had those, and every single nut and bolt is in there, is defined. The MG, if you got an MGC, you can buy all three books: the powertrain, the mechanicals, the brakes, the steering, and then finally the body. And there's a lot of detail in there. Um, uh, Barney, during COVID, since there's nothing else to do, what'd you do? You went through the MGA manual and pulled out every single part number and put it into an Excel spreadsheet. What'd you do, Barney?
Yeah, I got three or four different service parts lists for MGA, literally retyped manually every line of every one of them, put them on like a spreadsheet on my website with a complete list of all the part numbers that were used in MGA and descriptions of what they are or where they're used and how many of
Okay, so you got Barney's site for the MGAs, excuse me, and then these factory parts manuals that are available. You can buy them as CDs, but that isn't very handy. Usually you haven't got well, I don't know. You haven't got a laptop out in the garage. A pre-printed form is pretty handy. The only people I know for sure, I think maybe Jeff Zorn has some of those available in paper through Little British Car Company, and MG Owners Club in England used to sell them as a printed booklet. So those are pretty handy, those parts manuals. And of course, you
Hey,
can buy
John,
the yes.
I have the one you just talked about, the MGB service parts list as a PDF. So I just posted that exclusive for our people watching right now.
Okay.
So it's in the chat.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Is that something that they can download?
Yeah, if they get it right now. Yeah.
Hey, there it is. Well, everybody's going to stop paying attention, try to figure out how to work
Well,
their
it's
computers. Oh,
260 pages, so I'll warn you about that.
okay. All right. Um, so anyway, then the time comes to plan. And you've got to plan your time, your dollars, and your quality. So, and you also have to remember that there's a rule of three that goes everywhere. So you make out this plan, this master plan. It's going to take you, I don't make up a number, 9 months, and you're going to restore your car, and it's going to cost you just out of pocket $25,000, and you're going to do it really nicely. Well, the factor of three comes in. It's gonna be like $27,000. It's gonna or 27 months. It's gonna be $60,000, and you're gonna have to fiddle with the quality because there's some stuff that you just have to make it good enough for who it's for. We'll talk about that. So anyway, you have to have just it's a budget of time, of dollars, and quality. I'll talk more about the quality. Then you got to have a place to do this. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to go out in my garage and start working." No, you got to build a bench. You got to have a nice vise. You got to have a lot of light. You got to make it attractive. Paint it white. Paint the floor. You get it all prepped. You're supposed to be restoring your MG. Why are you restoring the inside of your garage? It's all a process. You want to be able to find stuff if you drop it on the floor in your garage, and if it's clean and swept, I don't care, polished concrete, not that Well, there's some binary stuff that's sprayed onto concrete floors now that's sort of got a marbly top to it. It's supposed to be impervious to oil. It's not. Oil and gasoline, it does reduce under gasoline. But you want a nice clean floor, whether it's gray or white or whatever the color it is. So when you drop something, you can find it. Anyway, you want a nice workshop with a lot of light in there. Absolutely. You got to line up your subcontractors. You got to find somebody who will agree to do the body. And the last shop that we used to do an MGB body, nothing wrong with it. We strip it all down, and not necessarily the engine out of it necessarily, just the outside and the doors and everything like that. Just spray it and everything and do a really beautiful, beautiful job. And then cover our mistakes, because whenever you're putting it together, you always scratch it. So you have to be able to accept it to come back in. Um, they were costing us $15,000. And that's with nothing wrong. That was a red car. Red paint's expensive. Maybe that's an extra 500 or $1,000 or something for the paint, but it's a lot of money. So you got to hunt around and find somebody who's willing to do it, and not their first one. That's a cruel thing to do to your subcontractor, and and he's going to bite off, excuse me, more than he can chew. And like the body shops that have never done an MGA, and they look at it and they go, yeah, I'll knock that out for you for 10 grand.
Um, John, can I just make a one comment
Yes.
supporting your comment about checking the painter? Um, do your research because I mistakenly chose what I thought was a reputable painter to paint my car during the restoration. And my painter was actually arrested while physically painting my car. The police came in, told him to put the paint gun down, stand up, put your hands behind your back, and he was under arrest. It took me a month to find out that was actually the case. It went through everything else, but the irony is that I get checks now from the Bucks County court system for like $32 or $62 or something like this. This is how he's making his payments
Resti-
for this. He was actually arrested for insurance fraud. So just a cautionary
Restitution.
tale that yeah, it just a cautionary tale that makes a fun story for everybody else. Yep. My car, like I have pictures of my car. The guy was actively arrested while painting my car. So just a fun little story. Thought I'd add to support your comment about finding a good painter.
Did it leave handprints on the wings or the
No,
bonnet?
literally, it was the fact that. But the problem is actually that you have to be careful because when our cars have our VINs, which are riveted onto the bodies. When you want to do a complete restoration, you remove those plates. Well, the painter had actually been renting space, had basically rented this, leasing this paints um, body shop effectively from the owner. Well, the guy was doing insurance fraud on everything else, so he was keeping no records. So when the police came in and when the owner of the building came in, there was this partially painted blue MG midget, or at least the front inner quarter panel, um, was painted, and there was no record on the car. There was no VIN, there was no nothing, there was no license plate, there was no paperwork. So it took about a month for me and him to get in touch to go, oh, it's your car in my paint booth.
That's a good story.
So, oh, it's a great story. It's a great
You
story.
should
One, I wish it,
write that up for Moss
yeah,
Motoring, you know?
yeah, it's one of those stories that I wish it wasn't a personal story. It could have been, hey, I know a guy. Yeah, I wish I wasn't the guy. But anyway, just to support from that story. So choose your painters correctly.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna I'm gonna add something. This is Tom, and I'm in Canada. Um, I'm redoing an MGB, and it's not my first rodeo. I've restored probably 4 or 5 cars. This was the most problematic one. It looked really good when I bought it. somebody done a really good job with fiberglass, and I wanted it all steel. So I removed the fiberglass, and as we did that, we discovered that, oh, it's going to need front quarters. And actually, not just front quarters, might as well go with front fenders because they're kind of rotten. Oh, and plus there's the interior stuff. And oh, there's the front quarter sills. And you better, cut all the metal out and fill it, put the interior pieces and the exterior ones and so forth. And oh, rear quarters as well. And by the way, we should take it up to the chrome pieces. And oh, and we need a new rear valence. So about $3,000 or $4,000 worth of heritage parts later, actually more like $4,000 or $5,000 worth of heritage parts later, we've got all the parts we need, and then you have to get them put together by somebody competent. And that means proper welding and all the other stuff that's needed, and then making sure that they're straight afterwards. So basically, my $20,000 MGB, because that's all you can get for one, is probably going to cost me about 40 grand. And that's because I know people and I know how to do stuff. And, it's going to have a stage two engine, which is sort of fun, but, it's a major undertaking. It's going to be a 3-year project by the time we're finished. And so you really have to be prepared and you have to go in with your eyes open. And quite frankly, if you're not very knowledgeable, you need to think about 3 or 4 times before you contemplate doing anything like this.
Thank you. Thank you. That touches on a couple of themes that I'm gonna hit up in just a moment here. But anyway, it's your subcontractors. You got to have a plater, zinc plater. I had a picture. I get a lot of stuff zinc plated all the time, and they've been my plater for 40 years. Ruined one batch one time, and the rest of it's just been stellar. So it's just I can't say enough about them. If I use Midwest Plating in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you're around here, you can get half of a 5-gallon pail plated. Can't even lift it. You can get it plated for about $75. That's a real deal.
Wow.
Um, then um, then you open up your catalog, say, for instance, your Moss Motors catalog, and you say, what do I know that I need for the car? Well, all the rubber pieces, the little chrome stuff that you're not going to get re-chromed, depending on a chrome plater and so forth. And you go around and round and around the car and through every single page in the catalog. And you go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And you line up all the stuff and you make one giant, massive order right then. Put your money down, plunge, fall into this project. If you're going to spend, I don't know, make up a number, $12,000 in parts, and there's someone else in charge of the checkbook, they're going to encourage you later to finish the job, either with carrots or sticks. They're going to encourage you to get the job done. The other advantage to ordering all the parts at once is that you can run a deal. You call your salesman at Moss, any place, and say, "Look, I'm ordering, I don't know, $8,000 worth of stuff at one time. What kind of deal can you make me?" And they'll make you a deal. Maybe a little, maybe a lot, depends, but it helps. The other thing it helps on is that you're coming right down, right down. You've already missed two summers. I'm going to get it done this summer. I'm going to get it done this summer, and you don't. And then it's next summer. I'm going to go to the show. I'm going to go to Fort Meigs in Toledo. I'm going to show at that. You miss that. And so finally you're coming down where it is almost done, and you order the steering wheel and it's back ordered. Oh no, what are you going to do? Put the old steering wheel on, unless you broke it. So order everything to begin with so that if something does end up on back order, you get it in plenty of time. So and it's cheaper, everything. The downside of it is that if it takes you 3 years to complete the project, whatever return policy was implied or guaranteed has long since expired. You got that going against you. But the plus side is you get everything ordered at a lower price, considering what's happening with prices right now. And then I want to talk about just some other sort of general things. Um, in the world of restoration, and we restored a lot of cars at University Motors, mostly partials, Either we had to get it up to a certain point where somebody could take it home and finish it. We got a car that was almost finished and they just couldn't do it, couldn't do it to hire us to finish it. Sometimes it was getting them over a hump. They'd already got the engine in and the brakes and everything, but they couldn't get it running, and they just needed it to run and stop. And then they'll go ahead and do the rest. Very rarely did we do one frame up, every single nut and bolt, because in a workshop setting, you can blow through $100,000. And my last ex-wife said, I don't get it. Why would someone spend $100,000 on a car that's only worth 15,000? And I'd remind her and say, well, Lynn, do you know anyone who owns a cat? You can dump a lot of money into a cat and they aren't worth anything. Anyway, you can get really upside down if you go the professional route. So that's why I'm saying you can't make any money at this. You have to love it for the process. It's something, instead of, I don't know, instead of boating, instead of flying, instead of skiing, you're going to spend your time and your money restoring your car. You're home, you're in the garage. It's nice. It's fun. It's fun. Um,
John, I'd call it entertainment. How do you put
yeah,
a price on enjoyment?
yeah, yeah. That's
It's
what
not an
that's.
investment, just like boats.
People came by the shop, they'd walk in the shop and we had 30 MGs in the shop at one time, outside, inside, and I'd say to the person who was taking a look over this vast expanse of vehicles and parts and equipment and people, I'd say, looks like we're in the automotive business here, doesn't it? And he goes, well, yeah. And I say, we're not. We're in the entertainment business. So yeah, you just have to keep everybody happy. I want to talk about for a moment about perfection paralysis, a word that I hadn't ever, a phrase I hadn't experienced until a couple years ago when my customer claimed that that's what he had. So if you go over to the wire wheel with a bolt and it's rusty, you can be on the wire wheel for 10 seconds, get the threads cleaned off, or you can be there for 4 minutes. So how good does it have to be? It has to be good enough for who it's for. There are some lines you can't leave grease on something you're going to paint. There's stuff like that, but you don't want to get into perfection paralysis. And the other one that's awful, like the gentleman from Tom from Canada, is mission creep. Now, sometimes it happens accidentally. We had a Jag come in the shop one time, E-type Jag. Guy wanted the bonnet painted, so the paint had started to lift off in some places. So we started taking the paint off, and underneath it were all these things about the size of a tennis ball, dents all over the bonnet, all over the bonnet. We'll go, is this hail or what? And we talked to the owner and he goes, well, you might as well make sure the rest of the car is all right. So we ended up stripping the paint off the rest of the body. And there were these things all around on the bottom side, on the side of the doors, the top of the doors. Now, I don't think it was hail. I think it was a baseball bat from a disgruntled spouse or something. I'd never seen a car beat up so badly. So sometimes there's stuff like that's just a surprise. And you got to have what Tom say, you got to have your eyes open when you get into this. But the other thing that happens is mission creep. We had a gal call us from the other side of Grand Rapids. Oh my God, 50 years ago, 40 years ago. And she said, my MGB's all apart. It's in my basement. And what's it going to cost for me to put it back together? And I said, well, come over. So I went over with with Caroline and one of our guys, and she did not lie. Her car was all apart. It was painted Gramping gray, beautiful color. Gramping gray? No, Chelsea gray. That's the Roadster color. Um, Beautiful, beautiful, but not a thing on the car. And boxes and boxes and boxes of parts from Moss Motors, and boxes of stuff piled in the corner. So I turned to the boyfriend and I said, so where did this start? And he goes, oh, it was a leaky heater control valve. So he took that off, and pretty soon the distributor's out, because it dripped water on that. And then maybe the starter motor was out, and then. and then the whole car was apart. And so I said, well, I mean, good grief, it's going to cost you 10,000 bucks. It's a long time ago to put it all back together. She blanched at that and said no. And somehow maybe she forced her boyfriend to put it all back together. I never saw her again. I saw the car with a new owner, and it looked really nice. But anyway, you got to be careful of mission creep. You go in to do something and then it balloons into something else, and you got to be you got to be wary of perfection paralysis. So
Hey, John,
yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just before you go into your control creepy or whatever, I tried to have my MGB LE buffed, and actually the guy, you know him, John up here in Marquette, he said there was no clear coat on my MG. Now, once the MGB LE or any other model come out of the factory, did they paint and put a clear coat? Because
no,
there's no
no,
clear coat on that.
no. That was before base coat, clear coat.
Okay.
That's
So if I wanted to have a clear coat put on it, I would have to have the whole body stripped down, repainted, and then put clear coat on it.
I don't know if that's all true, but you can polish up that black. You get an LE,
Yeah.
you can polish up the
Yeah.
black. It'll look real nice.
Yep.
You,
It
you don't
does.
need
It does.
you don't need a clear coat on it. There are some
Okay.
aftermarket things. What was the ceramic coating? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Some kind of
There's a guy.
I warn you
Yeah. There's
about
a guy who
that.
put a new sound system in my MG, and up on his wall, he had ceramic uh, coating on on his advertising
Mhm.
boards and everything like that. So,
It's
okay.
I got a warning for you guys about ceramic coating, by the way.
sure.
I have a beautiful Fiat Spider, which has a really, really nice paint job on it. And I was convinced to ceramic coat it, and I really regret doing it because the problem with the ceramic coating is, yes, it'll make water bead off of it and all that stuff. And yes, it'll protect it to a degree. But if you want to do any blemish repair, it's a major pain in the ass.
Uh,
So and it's not cheap. Get a good ceramic coating on, guy's going to hose you for about $1,000. And to be perfectly honest,
That's only 280 in the US.
yeah,
I'm
no,
s-
it's
I'm sorry.
still it's still 750 for you. But anyway,
Yes. Yes.
but anyway, the point is that you're better off not doing that, especially you've got a solid color original paint.
yep.
That paint will buff up really nicely repeatedly
Yep.
unless you get too crazy. Don't
Yeah.
get it hot. And just put wax on it and leave it at
Yeah.
that.
I put the Brazil stuff on. I put
Hey,
the Brazil wax on it in the red container. Yeah, it buffs up really good. You guys are right. You guys are right.
so that's yeah, the whole reason this is called How to Restore Your MG in an Hour isn't because we're going to restore your car in an hour. Of course not. But we're going to talk about it for an hour, right? So, so lots of people, lots of ideas. Um, other things are there are in the world of restoration, there are real hurdles. Steering wheel's on back order. There are imaginary hurdles. What color are we going to get? What size tire am I going to put on there? Am I going to change it to wire wheels or keep the disc wheels? Should I get the canvas top or the mohair top? Those are imaginary hurdles. You got to get through those. That's decision making. And then there's cash. And you need lots of cash. It's got to be, you got to have it available to you. So here's what you came for. This is one very short paragraph, maybe even shorter than that. And it's the most essential thing you're going to hear tonight. When you go to restore your MG, restore one part at a time, one part at a time. Now you've already got your workshop set up. You've already got the money, you've already got the box of parts. But when you start to work on the car, take off one thing at a
Uh-huh.
time. I don't know. I got to hit the mute all button. I got some background noise here. Just a minute. And I don't know. You're working on an MGA. I don't know, where are you going to start? Start at the rear bumper. Take the rear bumper off. What are you going to do to the rear bumper? Are you going to buy a new bumper? Are you going to send it out and have it chromed? What about the spring steel on the back side? You gonna have those sandblasted and powder coated? You gonna paint them? What about the fasteners? You gonna get those replated? Obviously, you're not gonna take four bolts in and get those replated at the one time, but um, you've got to go into the stuff and get one thing done at a time. Then when it's done, wrap it up in plastic, not in a paper bag with a number on it with some key that you put into some Excel spreadsheet. But wrap it up in plastic so you can see what the hell it is and put it on the shelf and then take the next thing off. What's the next thing? I don't know. The rear tail light. What are you going to do? You're going to buy a new lens? You're going to wash the old one? If you buy one new lens, you got to buy two because all the reds aren't the same color. You're going to switch it over to LEDs. Are you going to polish up the chrome that's on there? Are you going to put new gaskets? Of course, you're going to put new fitting gaskets around it. Is it an MGB tail light and it's got little bullets on the end and one of the bullets is pulled off? You got to solder that on now. You do it completely. Put every nut and bolt back with it, not into a jar that's labeled nuts and bolts as though you can't see through the glass, but put all the nuts and bolts up on the back side just the way that they came off. And then when you go to put it back on, there it is. And all kinds of stuff can happen partway through a restoration. You can get the thing halfway apart, and suddenly it's like your boss says, "Hey, good news, we're moving you to Phoenix." And it's like you can get the car in 500 pieces. Well, you can quick put them back on. It's something. I mean, it's if you have to, but just one part at a time. Obviously, there's efficiencies in scale. At the shop, at University Motors, we didn't do one part at a time because we knew where everything went and it all went out in batches. But it's the most important advice that I can give you is do one part at a time. Take the turn signal control off your MGA. You're going to put a new leather diaphragm in it. You're going to soak it up with some neat's foot oil and see if you can get it going again. And then clean. What are you going to do? Every single piece, one part at a time, and then wrap it up in plastic and put it on the shelf, complete, so that when you take it off the shelf, all you have to do is mount it back on the car. It is just so much better that way. I know. I've been there. I came home from Vietnam with it after lusting through the T-type catalog that they had, Moss Motors 5775 Dawson, Goleta, California. Glenn Adams was working the front counter. I got out of the Army, had $800 in my pocket, um, drove up from LA to Santa Barbara, went to the front counter, ordered everything I needed, I thought, for the restoration, had it sent to my home, went home, and in 3 days had my TD totally apart. I had the wood out of the body. I mean, totally apart. And to be fair, I never did get it back together. It's too much of a project. You can't do it. You forget. You forget where stuff goes. Take the fuel pump apart. Don't take the speedo apart. Oh my God. So anyway, there's all these subcontractors you've got to deal with. Your speedo, your gearbox. You don't want to do the gearbox. You don't want to do the engine. We had a guy here in town that did everything. He bought a TD as a kit. TD Mark II as a kit, and it boxes and boxes and boxes. And I gave him the same advice, one part at a time, and he did every single part himself. He did the engine, he did the gearbox, he did the differential, he did the brakes, he did everything. The upholstery, painted the car. He shouldn't have painted the car. Should have let somebody else do that. But anyway, painted the car. And then right at the very end, he calls me up and he said, "I've laid the wiring loom into place. Everything's coming out where it's supposed to. Mechanically, it's all laid out, but I've got to hire you to hook it up." And I said, "Well, you've done everything else in the car. Why wouldn't you hook it up?" And he goes, "Oh, electrics scare me." So everyone's got their own limit. He'd done everything on that car himself except the electric. So just know your limits, or push through them. Push through them. Anyway, one part at a time. So when you start going on this and you start working, your interest, understand that over the course of the restoration, however long that's going to be, and remember in your wildest imagination, that number multiply it by three, your interest is going to wax and wane. You're just sometimes that's all you want to talk about. Your kids, your wife, your grandkids, they're all going to say, "Hey, remember we're here," you know. And other times your interest will evaporate. It'll just be gone for a while, and somebody else, maybe somebody else who's in charge of that checkbook, has to remind you that you've got an unfinished project in the garage and you got to get back to it again. Your ability starts off low. I mean, your interest starts off high, right? You're peaked, you're set to go, but your ability isn't as good as it's going to be later on. So if there's a chance of leaving something that's delicate, or you're not exactly sure how to do this, wait on it. Leave it till later, till you've developed the skills that may come along with doing all this. I mean, the skills that you learn by talking to people or by doing, like separating rusty pieces of a rusty nut and bolt. You know, you turn it red hot with an oxyacetylene torch. It unscrews. I mean, if you could get a hold of it by hand, you could spin it off. It's just easy schmeezy. But when you're separating dissimilar metals like iron, steel, and aluminum, like at the oil cooler on the front of an MGB, you've got to heat up that gland nut that sits on top until it's really hot. Can't it's very difficult to melt the aluminum, but not that hot. And they get it really hot and then quench it. Bunch of rags, bunch of wet, cold rags. Psst, and you can unscrew it by hand. So there are all those things that you're going to learn as you're moving along and how to do them. So leave the dicey things maybe for just a little bit later. You've got your resolve, and that's kind of like your interest. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. You know, some days you have to force yourself to do it. Some days there's no forcing at all. It's not even a real job anymore because you love what you're doing so much. You've got a certain amount of time. In the beginning, maybe you got lots of time. Maybe you get laid off, you got even more time. Maybe somebody says, "Hey, you got to start pulling double shifts." You know, I don't know. Your wife is ill, your kid's ill, your grandma. You got to go someplace. You know, it's like things impact your life. They that's more of the situation. But time, it's the amount of time that you actually have. Then there's the money. That's why I'm encouraging you to spend as much as you can front loaded, so you're into it already, and you can't just quit. You know, you've got to have a good time. So why is this thing doing this? And I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to try to following. Oh, okay. I'm not sure what's going on my screen. Anyway, uh, then there's your situation again. You know, you're married now, but 2 years from now you're not. You know, you got to pick up, move the whole project someplace. There's just 1,000 possibilities that can happen to you. And then there's the quality. Remember, that was one of the first things that we talked about was the quality. And now it's almost the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the quality. When you start off, it's like, I'm going to make the best MGA twin cam that's ever been assembled. Well, good luck on that. But you know, you start off with this real high desire for quality, and so the chassis and the engine and the gearbox and the U joints, all the shit you can't see, is all beautiful. And then you get down towards you getting towards the end, and it's like, I'm never going to get this thing done unless I cut my quality. Well, where's that going to show up? On the outside of the car when you're assembling the body, and that's where it's got to look the best. So it's a real bugger here, this quality thing. You start off and you want to do a really good job, but then sometimes towards the end, I don't know, you're running out of money, you're running out of time, you're running out of space. You just want to get it done. You promised somebody that it would be done for their graduation, their wedding, their something. The other side is even worse, and that is your quality starts off a reasonable expectation. But everything you do, you think, I could do that just a little bit better. And eventually you end up wrapped up into this perfection paralysis that you can't get the car done. I had a guy who had just not too far from Grand Rapids. He had an MGA and he ended up stalled on it. He couldn't do it anymore because he couldn't do it to the quality he wanted it done. And his buddy calls me up and says, "Hey, I need you to call this MGA owner and tell him you'll finish his car because he's just he can't get it done." And I said, "Well, he's going to tell me." And he goes, "Yeah, I know." Well, I called the MGA owner and I said, "Hey, your buddy called me and said, I just, remind you that, hey, you want to get it done, bring it up, we'll finish it." And he says, "Oh, I don't want to insult you." He says, "But you can't do it as well as I want it done." I said, I knew that, but I had to offer. So perfection paralysis is a real thing, and it can bring you to a complete halt. There are two different types of vehicles. We've got T-types and MGAs, and then we got the monocoques, the magnets, and of course the MGB and the MGC and the midgets. And they're two very different approaches. In the case of a separate chassis and body, the MGA and the T-type, you work round and round and round and round on the body and eventually get it to the point where you can lift the body off the chassis and continue doing the work. The other side is the monocoque, which is everything comes down, or as far as you're going to want, as far as you take it. There are such things as rolling restorations, like I'm going to do the underbonnet this year, and then when I recover from that, I'm going to do the interior, and when I get done with that, I'm going to do the exterior. You say, well, why would you paint the car after the interior is already in? There's a certain way to sequence stuff that only makes sense, in your own head if you try to get it done and just whatever you're doing. But that would be a rolling restoration, a one time take it off the road, work with it until it's done. That's another type of restoration. So you get the body like on take for instance the MGA. There's some stiffeners you put in it so the body won't collapse. If the body's really rusty along the bottom, you got to get the floorboards out. Still don't have to get the engine out, but you got to get some stuff out so you can do some welding. Remember that in all of our cars, the door predicates the fit of everything else. Everything fits from the position of the door. So the MGB, you don't have to worry about it too much. The doors are always pretty well lined up. A's are a horror. T-types are really easy because they overlap. As long as you haven't allowed the body to fold up against itself, it'll still fit in the hole. You can make it work. So when you're doing the MGA or the T-type, you get the body to where you want it. You let the body man go at it and paint it. While he's painting it, he says, "Oh, I have it here for 3 weeks." 9 weeks later, of course, it's still later. It's still there. Rule of three. During that time, you can take the chassis, build up the chassis, the gearbox, the engine, the differential, the brakes, all that stuff that goes in the body. And you can actually go out and drive the body. I got a picture of Bruce. Can't think of Bruce's last name. He came up one time and we said, well, we'll put the radiator in it and the master cylinder's in it, put a battery in it, put him in the driver's seat, and he went and drove it around. He'd already spent tens of thousands of dollars. It was a real uplifting part for him. It'll be an uplifting part for you to go out and drive your chassis around the neighborhood just to say, yes, it's done. Well, then the chassis is all done. Then the body comes back. So you put the chassis up against the side of the garage, get out the sawhorses, put the body on it, T-type MGA, and you begin hanging everything on it. And on an MGA, oh my gosh, you can put the rear fenders on, you can put the dash in, you can put everything on the firewall. You can wire almost the whole car. You could put the front fenders on, but that's getting a pretty unwieldy piece of machinery to move around with 6 or 8 guys. But the chassis, we always did that. Build them up on the sawhorses, and then you could sit on the stool underneath the dash and connect stuff and still be able to see what you're doing, not having to lie on your back, upside down with all the blood rushing to your head. The opposite is pretty true on the MGB, and that is that you run all the lines, all the wiring, all that stuff first, and then and put the suspension on it, and then at the very end, well, you've got everything else in place. Then you go ahead and drop in the powertrain. So there are two different approaches to take. So anyway, it's you'll find over the course of the time that you're working on the car that you're running yourself low on funds. Maybe you got to slow down for a while. Just expect periods where it's absolutely stalled just because you can't get your head around it. You can't make your brain work. Other times it's for another reason. It's just and then there are other times when the family's got to remind you that they're there too, and that your whole life doesn't surround working on your car. It's
Hey,
about
John.
about one part at a time. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Uh, a question I think is a preliminary question that I don't know if you've addressed it or not. Uh, why are you restoring this car, and what is your goal? I drive. I don't show. I don't go to concours. I don't. This is not an investment. I'm not going to sell it. This is a hobby. I'm going to drive it. So my cars all have a lot of, shall we say, patina, and they all run good, and they're mechanically sound, but they're not beautiful. And so they all could be restored, but that would have no interest to me. That's just me personally. So I think everybody, before they do it, are you trying to make a modern car out of an old car? Are you going to put modern running gear and stuff like that in a resto mod, if you will? Are you trying to win at Pebble Beach or Hilton Head or something like that? That if you are, that car is never going to be driven. It's going to be trailered there and kept in a glass box. But are you trying to, turn it, flip it to sell it? In which case, you're obviously insane, and so none of this matters. But why are you restoring the car? I do a lot of maintenance, but I don't do any restoration.
Well, I think that was my first one of my first opening lines there, Judd, was that you're not doing it for dollars, you're doing it because you love it. You know,
Yeah,
some
but
some
what is your goal? Is your goal
yeah.
that you're going to knock everybody's eyeballs out, or is it that you're going to have more fun driving it, or that you're going to whatever?
Pride in
Goal
your
is
work.
to make sure that the rust actually doesn't take over and you're driving down the street and fall out of the car. That's usually that's the case. It's like, okay, if I don't restore it now, I'm going to lose half. I'm going to drive down the street and the car's just going to fall off like a cartoon thing. That's usually why, at least in my case, it's why I did it to avoid.
Well,
It's
you should.
called pride in your pride. Excuse me. It's pride in your work. Is
This is a whole philosophical discussion. It's
My goals were to get girls, but it doesn't seem to be working so far. But it's in progress.
yeah, girls.
I got mine.
It used to work. It used to work, but that was back in the 60s. So when they knew what the car was. Although I drove my MGA like 3 days ago, 4 days ago. My girlfriend was driving my car, and I took my car and went around and did some stuff. It was pretty chilly out, Michigan, 50 degrees or something. Sun was out, beautiful day for driving. And people come on, wave at you and stuff. My car was restored in 1980, and it needs it needs another dose real badly. It's been restored a lot longer than it was original, but now it needs a re-restoration. So what I'm
As you can see, it's still a chick magnet.
it's a
Hey,
chick
John.
magnet. MG,
John, can I
mostly
say
gray.
something?
Yes.
I said something. I last summer I was driving my MGA and I was in Vermilion, And at that time, they must have had a busload of the red hat ladies, the women that wears the red hats. I had the cat calls, the whistles. I had them coming up to me. Oh man, for an 80-year-old guy, I was happy.
Hey, hey, so everyone's MG ownership is different. Some people drive. We had people that used to come in and they didn't check their oil. They just didn't. They just put the key in and they drove it and they loved it. And I had other customers who you'd talk to them about their MG and it was like the most important thing in their life. And you'd see it one day in their garage and it was a squirrel's nest. They never drove it. They just dreamed about it. And then there's everyone in between. That it's so there's just a place. There's a place here in this big community of British cars, MGs, for everybody, But my God, if you want the nicest MGB, go out and buy one. It's cheaper to get a job making pizzas and save up the money, clock the hours, save up the money, and when you got 20 grand to go out and buy yourself a really nice MGB, you will have beaten the game by thousands of hours, but you won't have had as much fun. Plus, of course, you're
Hey,
picking up
John,
girls at
why
the.
did you say that you needed to restore your car? What was the reason for you saying that you thought you needed to restore your car now after this many years?
Because the paint's bad, the underbonnet looks awful, the seats are torn. Mechanically, it's wonder. Oh my God, I can drive 90 all day in it, in my 62 MGA. But I'd like it to look nicer.
Well, you know
John,
that fits into what Judd was saying. You need to answer the question first, what are you trying to achieve?
Yes.
And then you need to ask yourself, what can I do versus what do I have to hire out? And then once you get through that little discussion, you have to decide, well, am I trying to address structural issues? Am I trying to adjust functional issues with the car? Am I trying to change its appearance? When I look at the appearance, am I considering how it looks from 25 feet, 10 feet, or 2 inches? And I think those are the kinds of things we have to ask ourselves before we dive into this, because quite frankly, all of your discussion so far has made our heads spin out of control with what to consider on all this.
Well, good, because it's not an endeavor that should be entered without forewarning and a lot of thought and planning.
I have a
John,
comment.
Yes.
Um, my comment would be, and this is from personal experience and witnessing a lot of other people. I've helped a lot of people fix up their cars, these ones and others. If you're about to start the process, and I don't think anybody here is because it looks like a pretty old crowd, but if you're about to start the process, the smartest thing you can do is and you have an MG and you're in love with the darn thing, is look at it really hard and make a list of all the things that are horribly wrong with it, or even just a little bit wrong with it, and and then look at your parts list and decide how many parts it's going to take, and then step back and say, you know what? I bought this car for, let's say, $7,000. And but the problem is it's going to take another 30 to make it a good car. So maybe what I should do is admit right up front that I made a mistake. I spent $7,000 on a parts car, and go and find yourself one for $12,000 that's actually sound. And then you got yourself a parts car and a sound car. And you can
But
have fun with that instead of screwing around trying to rebuild something that should be scrapped.
but it's not the car that you met your wife in. It's not the car that your grandpa gave to you. It's not the
Yeah,
car
well,
that your
John, guess
uncle
what?
died in Vietnam and willed to you. There is
No,
there are
this one's a car I bought for
okay. All right. Yeah,
$7,000,
yeah.
which I should have turned into a parts car and got a better one. And I'd be better off today.
When
And
the
that's an important lesson for everybody here.
John,
when
Gerald
And
Dalton here.
yes, sir.
Uh, take quick story. I bought my MG with 11,000 miles on it when I was 17 years old. I'm now 65 years old. It was a daily driver. I've got 187,000 miles on it now. And about 5 years ago, I needed a top. So I bought a new top for it, didn't put it on. And about that time, a buddy of mine said, "Hey, I paint cars. I think I could probably paint that thing." So it started off to be just a $2,000. We're just going to do a respray because it looked pretty decent, knock the dents out of it. It was a daily driver. I lived up near Cleveland. I lived in Sandusky, for Pete's sake. And so it was a daily driver. And it turned into, as we got into it, it was like, dude, we could strip this down to bare metal. We could start here, put some floor pans in it because you need floor pans. And it began as nothing more than a respray and turned into a $7,000 paint job that was beautiful when it was all done. But the bottom line was I bought all those parts ahead of time, like you said, got a deal on them, and I mean trim and tail lights, headlights, all that kind of stuff. But the thing that screwed me was I had the vinyl top for almost 5 years before I put it on, and when I did, it was a son of a gun to put on. It still doesn't fit right because it had drawn up and it doesn't have the stretch in it anymore. And so anyway, yeah, buy all your goodies ahead of time. Don't buy the vinyl top till you get ready to.
Okay, that's
Hey,
What?
John,
that's good.
you were talking about the people, you're buying the car right out and all that. If they're going to buy a car for 18,000 or more, then I would say that they really don't want to work on the car. I buy mine, I like a rolling restoration. I'm learning about the car. I'm learning about the prior owner's mechanic or the prior owner mistakes. And you learn about the car and you put your own personality in the car. And then when you're going to a store, to any of these shows, you could brag about what you did to that car, what it is in that car. And you could say, this is my car and this is what I did to it. You buy it for 25,000, 20,000. You go, yeah, this is my car. And you stand there, you didn't do anything to it. That's the part, that's the pride of owning the car, working on it yourself, and also doing the restoration. Now today, with all the people with these videos and stuff, take pictures. Before you start tearing something apart, take a picture and you could have that right there and you know what it looks like. I just want to put my 2 cents in right there.
Thank you. We had
John,
people
we
just a sec.
I was
We
gonna say
had we had people come around, want us to restore their car. And I'd say, well, I've got to tell you straight up that it would be a better deal to leave your car with me or take it home and put a garbage tag on it and leave it out at the curb. Just let it go and buy another car for, name a price. I said, you're going to get a better deal than if I restore your car for you. But a lot of people, it's their car. They want their car. It's not rational. So anyway, Bob and Gloria, you're going to say something.
Well, I was just gonna say we bought our car 41 years ago for $3,500. Needed paint. It's Gloria calls it a rolling restoration because we do whatever it needs to keep it going.
Every
And
winter, we have a project.
yeah, we do something every year. And then we got 551,000 miles on it. And finally, I'm going to have it painted this winter. A friend of mine owns a body shop. We're doing the prep work. Right now, it's a 20-footer. It looks good for 20 feet. After I get it painted, it'll probably look good from 10 feet. And then a little while, 20 feet. But
Yeah,
I'm not afraid to drive it. It's not perfect. Mechanically, it is, but it's just not perfect. But if it was perfect, I'd be afraid to drive it.
that's the 2020 test. 20 feet away, 20 miles an hour. Oh man, does that look nice? Yep. 2 inches away. Ooh, that's a different story. So
I think it was Peter, but somebody said it. I didn't hear it previously. You can't take enough pictures. And with cell phones and digital cameras, I mean, when I used to have my old necromat and it cost me about 75 cents every time I pushed the shutter, that was different. But now photons are free. Take pictures and take more pictures.
you are quite right. You cannot have enough pictures. You think you remember whether the brake line went under or over the wiring loom. And you can make a case for both sides of it, and you can't remember, and you'd like to have it original. Another thing that's helpful if you've got a car that's been apart for a while and you want to put it back together, is borrow one. Hell, buy one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and park it next to your car, and then oh look, the brake line goes underneath the wiring loom. You've got one right there. Of course, it helps if it's a pretty original car, but there are lots of people out there. Other things I didn't think to mention, taking pictures, and I should have. The Another thing is that your car is your project. You cannot work on your car with someone else. You can try. It's more fun, perhaps, but you won't get anywhere nearly as much done. When I came to Grand Rapids, there were three guys that I knew that all three of them were working simultaneously on their TCs. And so every Tuesday night, they'd go to the next person's house and do something on the TC. Well, there's too many people and there was too much alcohol, and they got very, 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 very little done. That was one of my early lessons about restorations. Is it's a project that you do yourself. So, what other restoration comments or stories do we have? And then we're going to get into the chat section here.
Well, I just wanted to just say that you've been a big resource in my restoration. I originally bought this car when I was 20 years old off the lot in 1978. The car is behind me. And in 2017, I was thinking about doing this. And so in 2017, I went to the MAMGAR down there in San Diego and saw you and saw all these MGs and just really got my juices flowing. And I bought a cheap parts car for $1,000, and I took everything off this car, sent it to the body shop in 2020, got it back 2 years later, and put everything back on it. And now it's been running a year and a half, and won a award at the local rod run, which is obviously it's not a rod, not your typical muscle car, but I was very pleased to get that and all the efforts, and the car runs great and looks good, and a lot of it was because of you and these ideas that I've gotten over the years listening to.
Thanks. Thanks.
Hey, John.
Yes.
John? Yeah, I think you know about mine. I bought mine in Bay City for $6,700. The guy said be there on a Sunday before I went to a Guns N' Roses concert in Detroit. I drove it around and I said, okay, I'm going to buy it, $500 down. I had a friend of mine take a truck and trailer down there. Never seen a guy who drove that get so many fingers by other cars driving by, and he was fingering them back, and I was just sitting in my seat there. I'm saying, just get me in my MG back home to Marquette. So, anyways, yeah, it's been a labor of love. My wife said it's going to be a money pit,
Right.
but I've done a lot of work on it for the past 3 years. Like you said, it's in the garage now for the winter time. I'm gonna do a reupholstering and put sound mats on it. I'm gonna take that out, and that's gonna be my winter project. And yes, one part at a time, and that is so true. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're very welcome.
John,
Yes.
I just wanted to say that one of the great things about working on your car is the physical, laying down on a car. It's like yoga. You learn how to roll around underneath the car. It's an amazing thing, even at my age. If I go out there and just change the oil, I get an exercise. But the last speaker mentioned Guns N' Roses. I have to admit
Okay,
that
here it comes.
Yeah.
yeah, I was once under my MGTD, and a friend came over and he said, "Well, I'm going over and we're going to see Jimi Hendrix. And I thought, oh, and this was in Salt Lake City, and he said, "Are you going to crawl out from under that car and go see him, or keep working on the car?" I today wish I would have gone and seen Jimmy.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
John,
Yes.
I was going to say regarding the idea of getting a second car. That's exactly what I did. I've got a '72 Roadster that my dad got it back in about '85. He was, I think, second owner, and we drove it, and he daily drove it until somebody had a sale on an interior kit, and he decided, oh well, I'll take it apart and paint it, and that was in '93. Last year he turned 80, and he finally admitted that he wasn't going to finish.
Okay.
So that's where I took the inheritance a little early. But you can see in my picture there, it was he had taken so much of it apart that it just made sense to take her all the way down to the bottom. So I've got her on the side now, getting everything starting from the ground up. But I also I had to bring it over the border into Canada, and
Oh,
it was
geez.
all taken apart. It was all taken apart, so it was real. The guys at the border were great, but I had to explain to them that this trailer full of stuff was actually one car, and we needed to work out the taxes that way instead of 800 separate pieces.
Yep.
But that worked out just fine. But also, he didn't do as good a job labeling his stuff as I might have. So I found somebody with a parts car, and for I don't know, less than $1,000, and it's like, yeah, you got spare parts if you need them, you got glass, you got detail pieces, but you got a model. And actually, it turns out it's not that bad. You read the books enough, and you start dreaming about where things go. But yeah, a second car is a great resource.
Yeah.
And so that's all.
Thank you.
One little bit of word of advice regarding for everybody here who probably has done a car or already knows this. For those of you people who haven't done one, everything that comes off that car goes into a bag. That bag is given a number. That bag is also given a description on it. Okay. That bag, you then take that number, put it in a notebook. In that notebook, you give what number that bag is, and it goes into and a description of what it is, as well as whether or not the 4 bolts are good or needs to be replated, or that 3 of those 4 bolts need to be replaced. Okay. All of those bags go into a box. All of those boxes are labeled. Each system gets its own box. So if it does take you 2, 3, 4 years to get it done, you know exactly what part, what bag, what done. It made putting my car back together immensely easier. And literally, yes, I wound up losing 3 bolts, but only 3 bolts in the entire restoration.
That just
So
means you built it better than the engineers.
no, probably more that I'm more, OCD than I really needed to be. But the last thing I wanted to do was get 90% of the way there and going, wait, where'd that bolt go?
Hey, and
Because unlike John's comment, I didn't restore my garage and make sure the walls were clear and bright or paint the floor before I did it. I actually did restored my garage, gave it new heat, new light, and painted the floors and painted the walls when I was done the car. Oh, as well as new electrical outlets
Sure.
until I was done the car. So that's the other thing. If you can put in electrical outlets in various spots in the garage, so you can get, everything where you need to without schlepping an extension cord.
Yeah, and as we all know that, and you know more than well, I actually built a shed for my car and then expanded it when I got my
Yeah.
second one.
I was going to say,
Um,
build a shed, you liar.
yeah, yeah. John, just a quick story. I spent 4 years restoring my '79 B, and I had it. My wife and I have had it for 27 years, so it was definitely a labor of love. But the funny part of it was that the first show that I took it to in Pennsylvania, there was a judge, and it was I think the majority of the show was a Jaguar concourse show, but the judge came over to the MG and he looked down at the air pump and he said to me, he goes, "Wow, I have not seen an MGB with air conditioning." And I just turned around and I looked at him. I turned around to my friend Andrew and I went, "I'm done with this guy." And I walked away, and I really have not had any desire to have my car in a show at any point. It's just it's like you said, it's a labor of love. The wife and I enjoy the car, and that's what it's all about.
We
I
had a guy
second that.
come to our shop, and he'd been restoring his TC, and this is, I don't know, 2005, maybe a little bit later. And he said, I've been working on it for a while, and it's all done, and I just want to bring it up here and have you guys go all the way through it, make sure everything's all okay before I go out and start driving it. Wonderful, wonderful idea. And I said, how long have you been working on it? And he goes, well, don't you remember I bought a crankshaft from you in 1971? So it had been, some of the projects lie fallow for years, and then get picked up again. But it's so nice when they're done. It's so nice when you can go out and commune with other MG people and just enjoy the product of your labor. Does it make sense? Absolutely not. It's cheaper, easier, faster to get a job making pizzas and save up the money to do it. I mean, rather, but for those of us who are into it. So anyway,
So,
I'm gonna go over to the chat section. Although there's
John,
yeah,
real quick,
Steve,
I need your advice and question because I need to know
your
if
your
I've done
let's
a
see, what can I say?
restoration.
Your t-shirts in the mail, or almost.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. No, I've been on a running argument with my wife whether the car is a project or not, and I need your arbitration on this. It
Uh-oh.
came home under its own power. It looked beautiful, and then I tore the engine out, rebuilt it, rebuilt the tranny, put a new tranny on, a new overdrive, and then everything else. Is it a project or is it just having fun?
It's just having fun.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Oddly
can I
young.
tell you my story?
Yes, sir. Wayne.
This Wayne, California. I bought a 73 or yeah, a 53 MG in 1973. The car had been a project car by a father and son team, and the son went away to college, and the car was all in pieces. So I bought it sight unseen by had a friend down in Glendora go by and say he knew about cars. I said, if all the parts are there, pay him what he wants for the car, put it in a U-Haul and haul it up to my house. He did that. The car cost me $500. The car in the picture is the one I did. And when I put it together, I worked in the local junior college in the body shop class there, learned how to knock out dents and stuff like that. The car had been front-ended one time and did a lot of work on straightening out fenders and stuff like that, put it together. And the first paint job was ivory. It's the little off white that the MGs were.
Yep.
I did it in lacquer, did it in my garage. And my goal was to have something I could drive, feel comfortable with, and have fun with. I didn't want perfection. I wanted something that was just comfortable. I could be in a parking lot and wouldn't worry about someone dinging the fenders. And I had a good time. I drove that car for a long time, every day to work. I had that car on the road until the late 80s when I broke a crankshaft. Took a while to find crankshafts and bearings for the engine. Had it rebuilt. Uh, I took it to a machine shop and they rebuilt it. And they put it together wrong. And I got a mile on the car and it froze up on me.
Oh.
So I had to redo it. Well, I put it got it back together and drove it. And then about 10 years ago, I took the body apart, took it to a hot rod shop over in the valley, San Joaquin Valley here, and they repainted it the color you see in the picture behind me. And it's been a really fun car to drive. And a couple years ago, I bought a 5-speed transmission from a guy in England, brought it over here, pulled the engine, put it on, and keep on driving it. It's just a great car. I drive it for fun, and I don't really care if it's showroom or conditions. It never will be. It's a fun car.
Great. Great. Looks real nice. Looks like it's autumn red, but it's probably a modern equivalent. So,
Well, it is autumn red as far as I know. It was when I took the car apart the last time to paint it, I found a little bit of the original color on the back of the gas tank. We
okay.
matched that at the paint store, and I took the paint, bought the paint locally, and took it to the painter, and he put it on the car for me. And
Very
perhaps the
nice.
only problem I had in the whole project was the gas tank. After he prepared the body or the metal for painting, because it doesn't have any plastic on it now, the tank started leaking. So I
Yeah.
had to have it relined and repaired and then repainted again.
Yeah, those T-type tanks are a real problem with the perforation, the perforating rust that you get from the inside.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's the
And then
only rust that's on the car.
the rust on the inside, and then someone put slushing compound in it 30 years ago, and that's the great big flakes that have fallen off. And yeah, yeah. And a new tank's
All the wood on the
2,000
car
bucks.
is still original.
Nice. Okay. I'm going to go over here to the chat section here where John M says he's got a 35 PA. So that's in response to who had the oldest car. Paul says, here, just a minute. Go up here. Paul says, I was given a 77 18 and 1977 18V engine that was fully rebuilt 5,200 miles ago, and I'm going to put it into my Chrome Bumper 74 GT. I have to replace the engine front plate. Is it worth it to replace the cam from an earlier year? You could make a case for that, Paul. Yeah, because you don't know what cam is in there. You don't know if the cam
Put a
that's in
standard
there
cam
is
on
okay.
it. Right.
Is it a new cam, do you think, in the engine?
Yeah. Yes, it is. I got all the receipts from the engine,
Yeah, I
and
just
when
leave
they
it.
did it, they just put the standard cam back into it, which was a 77 back into it.
I'd leave it just the way it is. I mean, you could put a different cam in it, a Kent 714 or something like that, that's got a little more power to it and everything. But
Right. Yeah.
and you've already got it paid for. It's already
Right.
going to fit. And if you don't like it, all you have to do on a 77B is take the radiator out, take the front cover off, and you can slide that cam out. Well, it's more
Right.
complicated than that, but yeah.
Yeah, I've done AA that way already, so I know how that's done already.
You
It was
got
just a question of do I put the other cam back in it, which would make it run a little nicer, maybe. A couple of guys at the club said, "Yeah, you ought to put like a 70 cam in it." I said, "He said you're going to have it all apart anyway." So I said, I don't think so."
my my late wife said if you open up an engine, and that's an engine with 5,200 miles on it in this
Yeah,
case,
that's all it was.
if you open up the engine, it will develop an appetite.
Yeah,
So,
right. I know that.
yep.
That's okay,
So,
man.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, John.
Okie doke. So Mike Jansen says he's got a 32M type. So Mike Jansen's in first place. Let's see, 59 MG. Who that owns the MGAs are planning to go to the all MG meet? So everybody here, you got to lie to me and say yes, I'm going to Sandusky, Ohio, the last week in August next year. So here, Marty Bradley's got some articles
John,
about. Yes.
I'll tell you on that meet where they're going to be holding it, it's going to be nice driving. There's a lot to do. And I'll tell you what, they're really going to enjoy it. That's my backyard.
Okay, Sandusky, Ohio. at the Kalam, not the Calamari Lodge, the Kalahari Lodge, and it's got all the parking space for all of our cars, 1,000
Yeah.
cars, and it won't be 1,000 unless you come. So everybody's on duty here to plan for going there next year. Marty's got a couple of articles that I wrote some time ago about tips for restoring your British cars and restoration of the MGA. So anyway, then Scott Lynn says I had to grab my MG midget from an auto painter after a year, and then we already heard this story. Garnish his wages to get my down payment back. Yeah, so it just there's a lot of stories. Yep. Our recommended zinc plating vendor, we've got that Midwest Plating, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I don't know how you get the stuff here. You call them, see what they'll do. Mike Baldwin writes and says, I recommend rolling restorations as much as possible. To drive it while you work makes it more of a commitment to get it done, step by step, of course. But for paint, that's another story, another thing. So that is true. So yeah, all the mechanical stuff. And then Marty said, here's the AKD 3227. That's over there in the chat section. If you haven't started downloading it, do that now. Um, uh, Chuck Linux, scope creep is a shipwright's disease. Chuck, are you on? What kind of shipwright? Not shipwreck, shipwright's disease. Scope creep. You still on, Chuck? Doesn't sound like Chuck is still on. Anyway, right. Ryan says, get a good heater for your garage, for sure. And Calvin Dodd says, Bruce Woodson. But I'm not sure why Calvin Dodd said Bruce Woodson. Calvin, are you still on? I don't hear Calvin. So from another note from 59 MGI.
Hey,
Go ahead.
David, I have
Here
my
you.
audio.
Yeah.
You mentioned a guy that was good with MGAs, and you said his name was Bruce. It's Bruce Woodson
Oh,
of
okay.
Mercer and Woodson in Virginia.
Yes. Yep. And MGA Bodies, a real good guy, is Sports Car Craftsman in Denver, Colorado. He bought all the jigs from Carl Heidemann, and they can make your MGA fit absolutely correctly. But that's spelled with a couple of decimal points for sure. It's really expensive. MGAs are the most difficult of all the cars to restore. So um, here we got MGI. I told my kids, if you can read, you can do anything. Thank goodness for MG Experience, MGA Forum, and Barney. Another motto of mine is, if you're going to do it right. So, but that falls into that perfection paralysis. You can only do it so right. It has to be good enough for who it's for. Dean Webb, 2 questions. Any comments on the power steering unit for MGBs? Cost. My comment about that is why? Why? I mean, it's so easy to steer anyway. I only know one guy who bought a power steering unit, didn't like it, and then after complaining about it for a long time, returned it. It was an electric power steering assist. I don't know where it came from. Anyway. Also, do you think that the British car market will ever recover from the current slump? I'm not a prognosticator. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal in, I don't know, make up a year, 1989. Okay. And it was just this guy's thing. And he says, by the year 2000, MGB GTs will be worth $20,000. That's what he wrote in the Wall Street Journal. And somebody called me up and said, is that true? I said, well, shit, I don't know if it's true. It's not the year 2000 yet. Turns out it wasn't true. So, it's as long as we keep promoting our British cars and people want to have them, and they show up in the movies. And of course, the greatest solution to all of this is if the United States government would let the Chinese MG company bring MGs back into the United States. They're not, they look like my Chevy Equinox. They look like any other car that's on the road today. But it's got the MG badge, it's got an MG title, they are MGs, and they would no doubt support to some degree the existing clubs, and all of a sudden people would get excited about the retro MGs, which is of course us. So anyway, so until the Chinese come, I don't know if we're going to recover from the slump or not. John Lind, please confirm bleeding of the clutch. I have notes taken from an earlier Zoom. Okay, so let's say this is John Lind. Is that an MGB or a midget or what?
It's a midget.
Oh, all right. Okay. 1275 or 1500?
It's 1275.
Okay. All right. So I used to do it with just one person, tough to do. My arms don't reach like that
Yeah.
anymore. So someone's in the passenger footwell with a wrench on the bleeder. So spin the bleeder all the way out, put your finger on instead of the bleeder. The driver's sitting there, and the person who's bleeding is the master,
Yeah.
even though he's on the slave. And he takes his finger off and says down. And you press the pedal down, pushes the air and maybe a little tiny bit of fluid through the system. Put your finger on, and then you say up, and the pedal comes all the way back up, and you wait 20 seconds. You count them out. It seems laboriously long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 20. Finger off, pedal down, finger on, pedal up, wait 20 seconds. After you do that about 5 times, you get a lot of gurgling and fluid spitting out of that bleeder. At this point, the guy who's sitting inside the car probably be easier to jump out. Nobody at this age jumps out of a midget, and fills up the master cylinder reservoir, because to bleed it dry is just so frustrating. Then put the bleeder back in tight, crack it open, down, close, up, wait 5 seconds. Now you don't have to wait that 20 seconds anymore.
Okay.
And after a total of 10 bleeds, you should have it completely bled out.
Oh.
If you pump and nothing's going on, it's because there's an air leak. You say, well, wouldn't fluid come out, someplace? No, fluid's thicker than air, and it'll suck air back into the system. So if the slave is bad, it leaks. If it leaks, it's bad. If the slave is not leaking, it's good. But there's, in the back of the master cylinder, or between the hose and the steel line, there's lots of places, especially on the midget
Sure.
right in front of the battery, that steel line can perforate. Anyway, that's
Okay.
that's how you do it. So just
So I have to add another 5 times of 5 seconds to the end of this list that I have here.
Yeah,
And that'll be,
until the fluid coming out is clear.
thank you. Thanks very much.
Hey,
Yeah.
John, would a
By the way,
speed bleeder work on that slave?
What's that?
Would a speed bleeder work on
I
that
don't
slave?
use those. I know I had a guy stand up at our club meeting and said, I've used speed bleeders. They're the greatest things in the world. And I haven't used them.
My wife likes.
Supposedly, yes.
hey,
And
John.
a mighty vac will work. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can go at it, but I
Hey,
like
John.
bleeding. Yes.
Real quick, I had my slave valve go out on me when I was driving back from a friend's house. I couldn't shift from third down to second, and I had to pull it over to the side. Had the tow truck come, and there was this guy. He works for another auto place now, but I left it for him. I went out of town, came back, and he says, "Yeah, it's a slave valve. It's on the left-hand side of the engine, down below." This is like, either you discover it yourself, or it goes out on you and you have somebody else fix it. So
Yep.
what you were telling this gentleman with the TD, okay, is that the same thing? I mean, if you wanted to, if it's a brand new slave valve. It's been about a year and a half since he replaced it. So if that should happen again, is that would you go in? Actually, he had to replace the whole assembly on that. So
Well, usually if you go in to do in, you always do the cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first. But sometimes you got to package it. So if you go in to do anything in the clutch, the
okay,
master cylinder, the hose, the slave, just one of them. Do all of them, and then the
okay,
system is a number one. It's like getting out a 20-foot step ladder, changing a bulb way up in a 20-foot ceiling, coming down, and 2 days later the next bulb goes out. It's like just change them all. Just do it. Just
yeah, okay,
do it
okay.
all at
Thanks.
once. Yep, you're welcome. All right. Um,
I have to say, the way you described bleeding the slave cylinder, that's that's the way we did it after you told me that. I want everybody to know that really works. That's
Oh, I mean, it's combat experience. That's all. And other people say, oh, I put a tube on it and put it into a bottle and use a speedy bleed or a vacuum line. I just use two people. Besides, it gives you a chance to chat with somebody.
yeah,
Bill
well,
Henley says,
plus I have a I was just gonna say I have a leg up because my wife doesn't mind working on a car with me.
it's very nice. It's very nice. Bill Henley writes and says, John, I'm in the process of replacing the dash bulbs, but I got stuck on the speedometer bulb. I was able to get my hand on the back of the speedo, but couldn't feel where that wire is. It's a 72B. Any idea where it is? Yeah, it's back there someplace. Also, I didn't get to the oil pressure gauge, so any advice on that would be appreciated. The biggest advice is take the heater control out underneath the speedo. So you need an awl or a scribe to get the knob off, a deep 5/8 socket to get the nut off. There's a lock washer and a flat washer behind that, and then you got to pull the dash out towards you a little bit and wrestle and wrangle and drop the heater control out. Now you can get your hand up in there really easily. I can get this big mitt up and behind there. Not very easily anymore, but I certainly did for a long time. So, and the other thing to do is to take a mirror and go underneath there and just shine your flashlight into the mirror so the mirror illuminates what you're trying to look at and move it around. You can't work in the mirror because you're working backwards. That's like having a steering wheel that turns the wrong way in a boat or something. Anyway, um, um, get a good picture of what's going on, and then close your eyes and reach up in there and feel it. You'll find it. Phil M. When you put your parts in bags, put the label, masking tape, and Sharpie inside the bag. No smudged letters and no labels to fall off. Okay, it's a good idea. 260 pages. Steve Shupak downloaded the AKD 3227, apparently. That's a lot of pages. Um, let's see. Steve, Brad Schwartz, please comment on reinstalling the exhaust and inlet manifolds on an MGA. MGA or thicker MGB gasket, sealing compound, new studs, lock washers, nuts, torque. So anyway, when you're going to put the two manifold, the manifold, the inlet and exhaust manifold back on the MGA, there are 6 studs along the side of the head. You don't have to use the end studs. You can use bolts, 1.25 inches, 5/16 24 American bolts, 1.25 inches long, and use a couple of flat washers. And we always used a lock washer there, even though supposedly they don't help at all because they lose the temper, but because of the heat of the exhaust manifold. Anyway, you got 6 studs on the MGA, so you use the gasket that's available, and that's not that black, that gray asbestos gasket anymore. It's the steel stamped one with the one that's metal faced. Looks like it's going to leak, but they don't. put that in there and put your nuts back on the studs. Those are 5/16 fine nuts. You might put a smear of anti-seize on there, lots of different types of anti-seizes. The nickel anti-seize is high temperature anti-seize, but regular anti-seize works okay too. You can use the brass nuts and crank those down hard, but remember the brass nuts will come loose, they always do. I like prevailing torque nuts. A nut is round on both ends, right? And it threads along. Well, a prevailing torque nut, they take one end of that nut and squish it just a little bit into an ellipse, a tiny ellipse. Now it takes 5 pounds of torque to get it onto the stud. So you crank the thing down until it's really tight. It is not going to back off. And the anti-seize will allow you to take it off when you want. The exhaust donut that goes on the top of the exhaust pipe on the MGA, the midget, the B, the twin ones on the B, those have got a fabric face called an asbestos face. I'm sure it's not asbestos, and a metal on a metal side. Put anti-seize between the metal and the exhaust pipe, and anti-seize every other place too, and put that together. And again, you can use prevailing torque nuts, no lock washers. Flat washers are handy on the exhaust flange on the MGA. It's nice, hard to reach all that stuff up in there. And when you're tightening up the exhaust, you tighten it from the front to the rear. So leave the entire exhaust loose. Get it started in the front, get your strap, or in the case of an MGA, the two straps that strap the front exhaust pipe tight to the engine, and then leave the mounts loose and get it all into place. Start from the front to the rear and get it snug. Start from the front to the rear and get it tight. And then it'll fit up there really, really nicely. Torque, I don't
So,
know.
John, you mentioned two straps that go from the engine
That's on the A.
gearbox interface on the A, right?
Right.
Those are too short on my car. I guess they must have mismanufactured the exhaust pipe.
Could be. God knows it could be, or maybe your exhaust pipe is angling out away from the engine more than it's designed to.
Yeah,
And you
I
could,
thought so, but neither one fits. They're both like an inch short.
yeah,
Must
then
be made.
just go to the hardware store, get some metal strapping, drill holes in them, just mark them up as best as you can. You only need one. You don't need both. Two is like triple triangulation. It just isn't necessary, but you got to have one. All MGs have well, starting with a TD, all of them have somehow strap the exhaust against the engine and gearbox. So when the engine and gearbox turn going down the road, the fatigue point is not at the gasket going from the
Yeah,
front
it's
pipe.
funny. I drove that car probably 20,000 miles with no strap.
Yeah,
It broke,
yep, most of them work just fine. Yep, but
but
that's
I'll put new ones in.
yep. Okay.
Thank you.
One more.
This is for David. Were you a KC 135 or a B-52 member? I was a boom operator. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
is very expensive.
now I've got to go up
Cars,
to just
not
a
only in
minute.
the United States, also in Europe. I don't know.
Chat, just a minute here. I'm trying.
I don't know. If your boyfriend
Let's see,
says, I
participants.
don't want to go to another country. What do you do? My
Oh,
girlfriend loves France, so I think she would
I'm
be really excited to come. I'm
trying
sorry.
hard
That's okay. If your
to get
girlfriend says, hey, babe, we're
participants.
leaving the United States, you going with her? Hell no. No.
There. Sorry, I've got the mute all on here. I had to use
I'll actually go out there with like 8 wives now. This is my wife. This is my other wife.
Okay, so we've used mute all twice now. So I think maybe we've got it, at least for a moment. I'm going back to chat and let's see. I'm just working here to get chat. Just a minute here. And okay. Um, Wayne is asking, how did you get your TD in the background? And I can tell you that down under video, is that where it is? There's lots of options on what you can choose. You can choose your background. You can upload a picture. Barney's got waving palm trees in his background, but those aren't really in his background. That's just his virtual background. So Calvin Dodd, that's going to be the same cam as the early engine. That must be an answer to whether you should change the cam in your 77. So there's a lot of arguments about whether the cam or the gearing is a couple degrees advanced or retarded. I've never followed that myself.
It's in the gear. It's in the gear, John. I did. I went down that rabbit hole. If you match up the Woodruff key location in the two gears, the single and the double gear,
It's
the
off
single
by
gear
7 degrees or,
is off by about 5 degrees, I think.
oh man. Yeah. Okay.
Cam
Okay.
specification.
That's always made the most sense to me. Those cams, some of them had one band, run in the end, and other ones had two, and it's like, what does that mean? And it's just like, yeah, okay. Well, thank you, thank you.
Certainly,
I'll take that as Calvin. I will take that as gospel then for um
Hey,
um.
John, I think you skipped one. Go back a few. There's a longer paragraph one about dash bulbs.
I did. I got the dash bulbs about taking
Oh, did you? Okay.
the heater control
Oh,
out.
that's with your hand. Okay, sorry.
Yep, that's right. So anyway, let's see.
That
Just a
was the
minute.
tight spot.
It's a tight spot, that is for sure. Okay. And David Basili says I got 118,000 original miles on my 80 MGB engine and clutch. And clutch, that's impressive. I'm going to see how long each will last before a rebuild. Okay, so David, on that, the clutch doesn't make a whit of difference, but the engine does, because if it starts to knock, then you're in for a full rebuild. But at this point today, you could pull the sump off, replace the rods, the three of the five mains, and the oil pump, and you'll get another 100,000. Well, I don't get too excited here, but you get a lot more miles out of it. Obviously, you're not changing the rings or accounting for piston slap, cylinder bore wear, stuff like that. But I would when you do the clutch, do the rod bearings. You don't have to do it at the same time, but it would do that. And it just because if it starts to knock, game's up, and you're up for well, I don't know what an engine costs right now, but the rule of thumb used to be $1,000 a hole. So there's 4 grand to do your engine, because no matter what you take apart in your engine, once it starts knocking, you can take the crank out. Well, now you can take the rods and pistons out, you can take the cam out. Everything you look at is going to be faulty. Cam's going to be worn, the lifters are going to be worn, the chain's stretched. There's no end to it. So anyway, let's see. Next one, SJ. I've had my 56 MGA Roadster for 20 years. I've never had a workable soft top. I have the frame and it works, and it can be bolted onto the body. The tonneau is good. I'm a self-confessed fair weather driver. It lives in the garage. I've toyed with the idea of getting a new top. In the scheme of things, would it be worth getting one? No, you haven't had one for a long time. I realize it's just a judgment call, or is it normal to not have a workable top? I didn't have a top. I loaned my top. I loaned my MGA soft top and Bose to a guy up in Traverse City for 2 years. I haven't had my top up in a long time, even when I'm supposed to have it up for the winter. First of all, it's gray. It's an original gray hood. And although it's original, it's ugly. I like black ones. But I just never have my top up. So I wouldn't spend the money on it. So not if you're happy so far. Mike Jansen, my advice for restoring an MG: spend at least 1 hour every day wrenching, reading, whatever. Eventually, you'll finish it. Very nice. And here, David Basili's back to say, well, this had to do with the B-52 guys. Um, so, Norm Kelly, quick question on thermostats. Norm, are you still on? You got the last question here tonight. Norm Kelly. Long story about Norm Kelly, but not now. So anyway, a quick thermostat. You want a 195 thermostat? Stant thermostats, just fine. Check it before you install it. You know where they come from, so the quality isn't always excellent. Drill a tiny little hole, an 1/8 inch air bleed hole in the disc that surrounds the working part of the thermostat. So when you fill the radiator up, it doesn't compress a bunch of air in the top of the cylinder head that can't get out. It allows the air to get out and it allows the whole cooling system to fill completely. So it's my comments about thermostats. So anyway, we are at the end. We're at 9 o'clock. We've just got done with all of our questions. So oh wait, one's new one, one's a new one. What's a good tire size to fill up the round wheel arch midget? Geez, I don't know. I don't know. Those things were like 165 13s originally. Smallest tire you can find, kind of. I'm not sure, Dean. Anyway, we are at the end of our discussion tonight. I'll encourage you to go visit our
John,
PayPal. Yes.
Norm Kelly.
Hey, how are you? How's your foot?
My foot's okay. I think this is the first time on chat here, and I thought if I hit that little unmute button on the screen there, I could talk, but it took me 3 minutes here to somehow figure it out.
Okay.
Anyways, my 77 MGB, which I bought in 85 and brought out to you 3 times in the 80s from upstate New York, and I've talked to you recently. I finally got it fixed after 8 years in the garage.
Okay.
And I'm coming along okay. But one of the things that I thought I'd be able to do, I'm not much of a mechanic, it was running kind of cool. So I decided after watching one of your videos, it should have a 195 thermostat in it. So I ordered that up, and I ordered 3 more studs with the idea of maybe getting them in as well. So the nuts came off the 3 bolts, on the top part of the thermostat. And now I can't get that cover off the thermostat.
Okay.
I've put in for 3 weeks. I've been putting in penetrating oil, and I had a little 1-inch paint scraper that I actually got quite a lot of the old whatchamacallit out. So where do I go from here?
Well, that thermostat housing will come off if you go underneath it with your paint scraper and then follow it with a real thin blade screwdriver and turn it at each one of those points. It will probably eventually come off. There's corrosion between the steel and the aluminum. Another approach here is to assuming that the water's out of the system and you know you are going to change the thermostat, is take your propane torch and heat the stud and the aluminum around that stud one after another with the propane torch until you think it's going to melt. It will never melt. You can't get it to melt, not with a propane torch. But you might heat it for 3 minutes and never hold the torch in the same place. Just keep waving it slowly up and down, around. And then when it's nice and hot, take a great big bunch of rags that you've already soaked in a 5-gallon pail, even with ice in it. The colder the better, and put those on the thermostat cover. It'll cool, and when it cools, the coefficient of expansion of the two metals is so different that the aluminum will pull away from the steel and it'll no longer be corroded. You got to do that 3 times, and then again try with your paint scraper, but it'll eventually come off.
Well, I'll keep working at it.
Call me anytime.
I tried to use the double nut method, to
To
see
get the
if I could
studs
get that.
out. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to be real careful
waste of
here.
time.
Yeah, it's those are rusted into the cylinder head, and to
Yeah,
get
and I didn't
those
want to
out,
mess those up.
you need an oxyacetylene torch, but that's after the thermostat housing is off. So it may be you just buy a thread chaser or a die, 5/16 24, and clean up the threads at the top. And you can clean up those studs. You can put some 80 grit sandpaper on them, fold it over and zip, 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 zip. Clean those, or use a die grinder, a Dremel tool with a little brush. You're going to go through a bunch of brushes, but something or other, get those cleaned up. And then when you put it back together, use grease on the gas on the quart gasket, grease on the studs, grease on the nuts, grease on the mating flanges, grease up inside the holes that the studs go through, so that when you put it back together it works. If you end up tapping that cover, which sometimes you do out of frustration, you can tap it on the bracket that holds the air pump. You can tap it lightly on the underside where the hose goes, but if you end up breaking it, then that's easy. Then smash the rest of it off and just buy a new one. So,
Well,
John,
I think
I had a similar situation where I had a seized aluminum cover, and I found that best way to do is warm it up, like you say, with a propane torch,
mhm.
and then I just gently tapped it at where each of the bolts were, not hard, just a little bit, so kind of ring it to kind of break it loose, and
Okay.
all of a sudden, then it might start to move, and in fact, I was able to get it off that way fairly easily.
Okay. That's another
And it was
approach.
totally seized in the first place.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll work at it, and I'm going to leave the studs in there. I'm not going to worry about replacing them.
Okay. Right. Okie doke.
Thanks, John.
Hey,
if you see something on your PayPal, Mary Kelly, that's me, because I can't get my PayPal to work. So,
I got it. Okay. It's very kind, Norm. Thank you.
okay, we'll be
See ya.
talking to you.
Okay.
Bye bye.